Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneer interview series. I am your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Jason Scherer, who is the CEO of VitaTek. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
John, thanks for having me. I super appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to this discussion. Would you mind just kicking us off with a little bit of a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and the business that you're in?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Jason Scherer. I'm the CEO of VitaTek. Just to give you a little brief background on myself, I've been in the medical device space for about 20 years, and the first 10 years I spent doing. I was all over the country. I was in Colorado, Wyoming, Arizona. I was in northern New England and Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and Boston, and then some time in Minnesota. But was super interesting with my background is that I had the opportunity to work all over the country, number one, and number two, had the opportunity to work with multiple divisions of Olympus. So what's really fun about that is that I got a lot of experiences in a lot of different divisions. And then it segued into I got to meet some cool individuals that went into struggling medical device companies. And their primary objective was to try and turn around the company and sell the company as fast as possible. And so they did a fantastic job with a couple companies previous to me. And then I joined New Wave Medical. New Wave Medical was microwave ablation for liver, lung, kidney, and bone cancer for primary metastatic, and we had a cool targeting software. We ended up exiting that for a few hundred million. And then I got hooked up with Dr. Fred Moll. Dr. Fred Moll was starting one of his companies. For those that don't know Dr. Fred Moll, he's an inventor, founder of Intuitive Surgical, the Da Vinci robot. And he was starting one of his 6 startup companies, was Auris Health. And with Auris was a flexible tip navigational catheter driven by a Xbox controller. So it was a robot. And within a very short period of time, Fred had exited that company to Johnson & Johnson for $5.6 billion. I made some dollars from that. And with my dollars, I decided I was going to make my own medical devices. And so I went to a bunch of R&D companies here in Minnesota, got some proposals, started paying, $50,000, $100,000 every month to these R&D companies, realized that they didn't align on the same deliverables that I was hoping, right? I was hoping for rapid prototyping weekly. I was hoping for, a cheaper version, a more cost-efficient version, and then more deliverables. So then I decided that I was going to my partner and I, Rich, who sits behind me here, we decided to start Vita Group about 4 years ago. We've had 40, 49, 50 now. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. Time flies. We've had 50 medical device companies come through our company now. We provide 5 main subcategories that we kind of, hang our hat on. We do IP analysis, aggressive and defensive. We do COGS analysis, knowing exactly what the project is going to take dollars-wise through the whole development process, making sure that we know what the COGS are at the end. We do regulatory analysis, understanding what the regulatory pathway is from a 510K standpoint, from an FDA standpoint, how much is it going to cost, who's going to do the testing. We do rapid prototyping, as mentioned, with slide decks, pictures, videos every single week for our customers. And then we have really cool CPT code software that shows CPT code, DRG code, Q code software. We do all this for our customers, and then we buy into medical device companies. So we own 9 medical device companies to date. 2 of those medical device companies are on the market. They're FDA approved and being sold in the marketplace. And then we decided to hire our own regulatory staff in-house. So I have an awesome team of regulatory people. And then we decided to buy a contract manufacturer. So we spent a couple $1 million and bought a contract manufacturer that makes about 120 medical devices for about 70 medical device companies. The cool thing is this particular company has a tool and die mold shop. So we can do die molds. We'll take a step back from that. Die molds typically are done through India or China, and it takes about 9 months to do those, with about 6 to 8 weeks of revisions when you come back. You always need revisions because it's always needs to be dialed in to make sure that it fits the specs of the particular device. We can do die molds in about 14 days internally. We can do turnarounds and revisions in about 2 days. And then we decided that the last missing piece for us was sterilization. So we spent a couple $1 million and bought ETO sterilization equipment. And now, to sum it all up, we are the largest private medical device manufacturer in the state of Minnesota. We have 3 locations. We have 140,000 square feet. We have about 65 employees. And we're the only ones in the USA that do all those 6 buckets that I mentioned, from all the way from A to Z. We're the only ones in the US that do everything internally.
Wow. Wow. So that was a lot. So you mentioned you and your partner kind of got this up and got this business going. What was that spark that said, hey, we need to offer this suite of services
Yeah.
to this industry?
What it came down to every single time is that when we were working with outside consultants, whether it be FDA outside consultants or whether it be other contract manufacturers or sterilization, every single time we were really, really disappointed with the timelines and the dollar amount that we had to spend to do that. I'd spent a couple $1 million with the contract manufacturer that didn't really go anywhere. I had spent $40,000, $50,000 with FDA regulatory consultants, really didn't provide much value. So every single time we ran up against someone, lacking in deliverables and overcharging on cost, we just thought that we could do it better, faster, quicker, and internally.
Well, and you mentioned your ability now to make these molds, I think, and maybe they aren't molds, but in literally 1/10 of the time,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
other people are sourcing them from.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and why that quickly? I mean,
Yeah, so if you think of it from a die mold and tooling standpoint, die mold and toolings, whether you're making, this plastic part or, something for, this rubber backing for your iPhone, what ends up happening a lot of the times is that you take your DFM file, you're taking your file, you're giving it to the die mold and tool shop, and then they typically will just run the mold and they'll send it back to you, right? So it's a huge P20 steel mold, right? So they'll send it back to you. What ends up happening is that because they don't care about the outcome of what it could be the outcome, what you end up happening is a mold might be upside down. It might be filling upside down. The gants and the pins of how the mold is supposed to fill might be upside down or wrong, and so they really don't care, right? They build it, they send it on, and then they expect you just to figure it out from there. So we got to the point that we were having to redo molds or send it back to China or India constantly to have revisions or send it to another person to do revisions. And we just got frustrated, and we figured that, doing it internally can save a lot of time, a lot of effort. And if you think about it, for medical device companies all around the US, that's a huge pain point for them. When they say, hey, we're going to, start, cutting P20 steel molds, they're expecting a year and a half of work, to do that. When we're doing it, our alignment, right, is the same. And what do I mean by that? Our alignment isn't fee for service. Hey, I'm going to make this die mold, be done with it. And hey, I have other die molds in the queue. I'm aligned with the medical device company because I want to make sure the mold is perfect, because then we're going to go into manufacturing and we're going to be manufacturing it. So it has to be perfect to fit into manufacturing process. And then we're going to make the final product. And if we're going to make the final product, right, all these other things have to be done in lockstep and in a nice formal manner to make sure that we can get to manufacturing, right? And so that's the benefit of having us as a one-stop shop, because we're owning that process, right? The die mold shop, John, the die mold shop might say to you, hey, guess what, John? We just made the mold and we made it how it is. We're going to point the finger at the R&D team, or we're going to point the finger at how it is prototyped, or we're going to point the finger at someone else. When we own the entire process, it's our fault. And we're going to fix it to make sure that it's done correctly.
that's really interesting. So you mentioned what your organization does. You mentioned you've also now bought a contract manufacturing facility. Talk to me a little bit about what does Jason's work-life balance look like, and what are some of the things you do to try to maintain a reasonable work-life balance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do an hour with the kids in the morning, so I will hang out with them in the morning for school, and then I usually try and pick them up right after school, hang out with them for that period of time. And then we typically try and do something later on in the night, whether it's the Dairy Queen run, grocery shopping, or something else. But I try and split it up into 2 or 3 1 hour increments at a time. So it's almost to the point where they're like, yeah, Dad, I'm okay, like I'm good, like let me do my thing with my friends. Yeah, I play soccer in the community here with a bunch of older gentlemen, and so we have a grand old time doing that. But as you know, John, with your own startup, it's nonstop, right? I was here on the weekend. We are doing our MDSAP audit, which is a regulatory audit that we're trying to get audited to do more countries. But yeah, it's nonstop. I don't think you can have a good work-life balance, but if you're in a startup phase, I mean, it's 24/7, as you know.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's really just kind of, working through it, right? And integrating your family into your work and just making sure you're covering both bases.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, so you're in a pretty competitive industry. You're in a pretty innovative industry. How do you guys stay adaptable and open to change in your organization?
Yeah, so if we have an idea that comes up, we will move on it pretty quickly. We're all about making as reasonable notified decisions as we possibly can. For example, we have some products that we were making, a catheter, right? We're buying a catheter from a different company, and now we have quotes to do extrusion, braiding, and reflow for that particular catheter in house. So we're open to moving quick. The other thing is from an AI perspective, we use AI as we go and do IFUs. I was trying to find a quick IFU, but we use AI when we have to do language translation of our IFUs into different countries. And so what we'll do is we'll do that quick AI translation, and then we'll double check it with a qualified individual. We have used AI for a lot of video generation and graphic animation generation. It's not perfect. It is getting better. We do use it for outreach and targeting purposes, because there's a great LinkedIn connection called seamless.ai, and seamless.ai connects right into your LinkedIn, and it does a great job of connecting who's a who, and providing email addresses and other things. So yeah, I mean, we're open to change, and we try and change as quick as we possibly can. For the medical device industry in general, though, there is pretty known things that have been around for a number of years, and we just provide it better, faster, quicker in-house.
Okay, good. So let's talk a little bit about the future. Can you offer us maybe a glimpse into your future plans and goals that you have for your business?
Sure. Yeah, we're building out a 55,000 square foot warehouse here in Minnesota. That's going to be our new flagship. The other thing that we're doing from our standpoint is we're moving into catheters. The reason why catheters is that everything's going micro, right? Everything's going to be smaller in the future for medical. So we have a bunch of catheter type projects. We're looking at acquiring a couple of medical device companies that are thus in that space. Right now, we're about to launch 2 more products in Q3 this year. that will be in the plastic surgery space. And then we have another 2 products that are in the catheter space that will be launched in Q2 in 2025. Right now, we're going to be hiring another 5 individuals in the next month. These 5 individuals will be spread about, across our engineering department, our FDA regulatory department, and one more salesperson. What's unique about our sales team is that they hunt the core business activities such as R&D, manufacturing, sterilization. So they'll hunt the core business of what makes us the machine run. But they also are unique because we have our own OEM devices. So we have our own medical devices in the marketplace that are being used in the marketplace. So our sales team is spending half the time selling to doctors and hospitals and spending half the time selling to other medical device companies our core services. So that pretty much sums up our next 6 months.
It sounds like a super exciting time for you guys. I mean, really super exciting, growth, all these opportunities. Wow. So, so knowing that this show, right, is targeted towards people who might be interested in starting up a business or maybe in their first couple of years of starting up a business, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience today?
And I'm sure since your podcast is successful that people have said this before, but maybe I will put an exclamation point on it, if you will. The team that you build for your business is extremely important. I can't run FDA regulatory. I have an amazing person that does that. I can't do the R&D side of our business. I have someone that's amazing at doing that. I have an amazing CFO. Surrounding yourself with those key people that do that particular part of the business better than you is so crucial. And as I've heard this before from other entrepreneurs saying, "Hey, how do I do that? I want to start up a company, but how do I find that key person?" And I would say, what I spend a lot of my time on a weekly basis is networking, right? Networking with you, John, meeting you, and networking with a lot of different individuals. And if you do it enough times and really commit yourself to that practice of networking and getting out there, having coffee with individuals, coffee costs nothing, and really, branching out besides what you're doing, I think you can achieve that. It just takes time, right? You've been in the workforce for a long time. You know a lot of people, John. I've been in the workforce for only 20 years. I know a lot of people, but a lot of the times, networking over a period of time, it adds up.
Yeah, it really does. That's really good. Sounds like you're pretty humble too, Jason. So that's kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time today. It was great
absolutely.
meeting you and learning
Yeah,
more
nice
about your entrepreneurial journey.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.